The twin suns of Arcturus hung low over the crystalline spires of Velshura, painting the settlement in amber and violet shadows. The air vibrated with frequencies beyond human hearing, ancient songs of civilization that refused to die quietly. In the central plaza, where bioluminescent vines twisted around pillars carved from living stone, a man knelt in chains of pulsing energy. His wrists were bound by technology that read his thoughts. Blue-skinned warriors circled him, their obsidian eyes reflecting curiosity and contempt. They had captured what they believed to be a lost explorer. None suspected the man bleeding into their sacred earth had been sent to erase them from existence. The chains burned cold against Elias Reed's skin, each pulse probing deeper into his nervous system. He kept his breathing steady, eyes lowered, playing the defeated captive with practiced ease. Around him, the Arcturon settlement sprawled like something grown rather than built. Structures that breathed, pathways glowing with footsteps, towers humming with collected starlight. The warrior who captured him stood closest, her skin deep azure, geometric silver patterns etched along her arms. Her name was Liu's, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. Behind her, 6 others formed a semicircle. Pathetic, Liu said, circling him slowly. 3 solar cycles, we track ships entering our airspace. And what does the Terran Alliance send? This, she gestured dismissively. Several warriors laughed, a sound like crystals chiming. Elias remained silent, letting his shoulders sag, letting them see exhaustion. Every move was calculated, rehearsed in training facilities where they'd taught him 50 ways to kill without weapons. He doesn't even speak, said another warrior, younger with lighter blue skin. Her name was Vera. Perhaps he crashed by accident. There are no accidents in war, sister, Liu said sharply. His ship carried military-grade weapons beyond civilian standards. They led him down into the settlement's heart, past chambers where holographic star maps rotated slowly, past workshops forging weapons from crystallized light. The Elder's chamber was carved from a single massive crystal. Meridia sat at the center, her skin the deepest blue, marked by intricate silver patterns that seemed to shift like living tattoos. Her eyes were closed. "You bring me a hunter," Meridia said without opening her eyes. "And you think him prey?" Liu stiffened. "Elder, his ship bears military markings. What does protocol say about the man who allows himself to be captured?" Meridia's eyes opened, revealing irises containing swirling nebulae. "What name did your mother give you before your empire turned you into a weapon?" "Elias," he said quietly. "Elias Reed. And what were you sent here to do?" Before he could respond, alarm shattered the stillness. The crystal walls flared red. Terran fleet detected. "They're coming." The energy chains around Elias's wrists suddenly weakened. Meridia had done it deliberately. But while everyone rushed to defensive positions, Elias remained still. The fleet arriving early changed everything. And the Elder watching him with cosmic eyes seemed to know something terrifying, that his choice in the next minutes would determine whether 2 species learned to understand each other or whether the city would become a tomb. The settlement transformed instantly. Warriors streamed through corridors that reconfigured themselves like living organisms. The constant hum shifted to a deeper frequency, a war song that vibrated in Elias's bones. He remained in the Elder's chamber. Liu's returned, her face marked by fury and fear. "Elder, we must move you to Sanctuary," Liu's insisted. "We have 20 minutes before they're in firing range. Then we have 20 minutes to decide what we are," Meridia replied calmly. "Bring our prisoner closer." Warriors dragged Elias forward. Through translucent walls, he saw defense platforms rising from the ground like metallic flowers blooming in fast forward. "Your fleet is early, Elias Reed." Meridia studied him intently. 3 days earlier than orders specified. She knew everything. "We scanned your ship's databanks." Vera stepped forward. "We know what you are, what you were sent to do." If they had his data, they knew about the biological weapon designed specifically for Arcturon DNA. "Then why am I alive?" "Because Meridia believes you can be more than your programming," Liu said with disdain. Meridia gestured, and the chains dissolved completely. Liu's lunged forward instinctively, but Meridia froze her with a subtle hand movement. Let him choose. Your weapon is secured. Your fleet approaches. Help us negotiate with your commanders or remain silent, and let two species march toward destruction. And if I help, we let you go. We ask only that you carry a message that Arcturans wish to negotiate as equals. Start with removing the kill switch in your neural cortex. Meridia said, 3 minutes of pain, but you'd be free. The offer hung like a gravitational anomaly. Something cracked inside Elias. Something frozen since his augmentation surgery 6 years ago. Help us, Meridia said. Not because we deserve it, but because you deserve the chance to be more than their weapon. Before Elias could speak, Vera cried out, Elder, the fleet demands we surrender the operative or they open fire in 5 minutes. Meridia turned to him. So what will it be, Hunter? Die as a weapon or live as a man? 3 minutes of agony as Arcteron engineers extracted the kill switch. Elias felt it unwoven from his neural tissue, thread by thread. Now it sat in a containment field, pulsing faintly, but no longer part of him. For the first time in 6 years, his thoughts were completely his own. Admiral Cross's hologram materialized in the chamber. Sharp features, calculating eyes that had seen too many wars. Operative read, Cross said coldly, Standard protocol requires we neutralize both objective and security breaches. She was telling him he'd be eliminated with the settlement. Admiral. Elias forced steadiness into his voice. The Arcturans possess technology more advanced than intelligence suggested. Quantum shielding that may reflect energy weapons. Direct assault could result in significant fleet casualties. Cross's eyes narrowed. Explain. You have 3 minutes. The Arcturans are remnants of a Type 3 civilization that simplified the society to avoid attention. They knew I was coming. They've been ahead of us since I entered the system. Interest flickered in Cross's expression. That argues for escalating response. No, ma'am. That argues for negotiation. A species that treats enemy operatives' injuries rather than executing them. These are potential ally characteristics. The Alliance needs resources, not allies. Is it worth war with a species that might share knowledge with our enemies? Strategically, they're worth more as partners. 2 minutes remaining. Give me one reason to trust your assessment over doctrine. Elias thought about the kill switch now floating in containment, about his training, about beings who showed more compassion in days than a species had in years. Because I removed the kill switch, Admiral. I'm betting my life on this. If I'm wrong, open fire. But if I'm right, what you do determines whether humanity gains a powerful ally or creates an enemy haunting us for generations. 1 minute 45 seconds. That's treason. Yes, ma'am. That's also courage bigger than any operative I commanded. Respect flickered across Cross's features. I'm delaying bombardment for 1 hour. Arrange a meeting. If I detect deception, I'll expand bombardment to every Arcteron settlement. Their survival is on you. The countdown stopped at 47 seconds. Meridia smiled faintly. Well done. Now comes the harder part, maintaining transformation long enough for others to follow. But Elias felt cold dread settle in his stomach. The biological weapon was still in containment. If someone in Alliance command decided negotiation was too risky, they would activate it remotely. Everyone would die in 30 seconds. The countdown had stopped, but danger was far from over. The plaza bridged two civilizations. Crystal formations displayed Arcteron cultural achievements, evidence of their worth beyond resources. Admiral Cross arrived in person with 6 Marines. Her presence filled the space like gravity itself. Let's be clear, Cross began. You have 53 minutes to convince me partnership serves Alliance interests better than exploitation. We would rather burn than bend. Meridia responded evenly. However, we prefer a third option where both benefit from exchange. What are you worth more than 40 billion credits in gravitonium? Meridia smiled. Knowledge about the quantum substrate underlying hyperspace. Your ships navigate blindly. We understand it. Holographic equations materialize in the air, advanced mathematics that made Cross's scientists lean forward. With this knowledge, your ships could plot courses through previously impassable regions. Meridia continued. Travel times would decrease 60 to 70%. Cross was listening now. Why haven't you used these advantages against us? Vera spoke up. Because 3,000 years ago, wars cost us our world and 70% of our population. Survivors chose never again. It's a choice bought with blood and regret. Something flickered across Cross's features. Recognition, perhaps. Principles don't balance budgets. What keeps this from being one-sided? Joint development. Elias said, gravitonium extracted using Arcteron techniques, minimizing environmental damage. Processed through alliance refineries using Arcteron efficiency methods. Profit split 50-50. Nobody surrenders sovereignty. Liu's laughed. Is transaction all your people understand? Yes, Elias replied honestly. Profit is a language every faction speaks. Give them reason to value you alive, and you'll have protection conscience never provides. Cross studied him intently. You've changed, Reed. They gave me a choice I hadn't been given in a long time. The Admiral nodded slowly. Here's my proposal. Joint development with alliance oversight. Technology transfer as a good faith gesture. We establish a diplomatic presence pilot program. But bombardment doesn't happen today. Meridia consulted briefly with other elders through their network. Agreed. With one condition, Elias Reed becomes the first member of our joint diplomatic council. Cross actually laughed. Reed, you're reassigned to joint species liaison. Try not to get both civilizations killed. Relief flooded the plaza like warm sunlight. But then a Marine looked at his data pad with horror. Admiral, priority alert. Someone initiated the biological weapon remotely. 30 seconds to dispersal. Meridia turned to Elias. Can you reach it in time? The weapon was keyed to his DNA. Only he could disarm it. The containment facility was 400 meters away with 24 seconds remaining. Elias ran with desperation he'd never felt before. Augmented systems flooded his body with stimulants. He had 90 seconds at maximum capacity. The weapon had 22. Liu's appeared beside him, matching his pace. Western approaches faster, through the meditation chambers. 19 seconds. Reed. Cross's voice crackled through his implant. Disarm requires DNA plus 16-digit code. Sending now. Numbers burned into his vision like brands. 14 seconds. They crashed through doorways that dissolved at Liu's command. The containment facility appeared 50 meters away. Barriers dissolved. Liu shouted. 12 seconds. The sphere opened. The weapon pulsed ominously. Genetic payload enough to unravel every Arcteron at the molecular level. 9 seconds. His hands found the panel. He pricked his finger for DNA verification. The display shifted to code input. 7 seconds. First 4 digits, correct. Second 4, correct. Third set. His finger slipped on blood. Error. 5 seconds. Elias. Liu's breath, steadying his hand without interfering. For seconds. Third set again. Slower this time. Correct. Final 4. His mind blanked completely. 3 seconds. Breathe. Liu said, your body knows. His hand moved independently, muscle memory from training overriding panic. For digits in rapid sequence. Display shifted to amber. 2 seconds. Confirm permanent deactivation. Elias slammed his palm down. The device went silent. Countdown stopped at 0.4 seconds. He collapsed forward, gasping. Liu's caught him before he hit the ground. That was dramatically closer than anyone should prefer. Alarms cut off throughout the settlement, replaced by waves of relief. Reed, Cross said through the comm, confirmed status. Disarmed. Permanently deactivated. Outstanding. Next time don't cut it so close. Despite everything, Elias laughed, a sound that surprised even him. Liu's laughed too, the sound like wind chimes in a storm. Meridia appeared in the doorway. I saw this moment among 10,000 futures. In most, you were too late. But in this improbable one, you ran fast enough. This is the future we've earned through choice and courage. They walked back to the plaza where species who should have been enemies were becoming something else entirely. So what happens now? Elias asked, still catching his breath. Now comes the difficult part, Meridia said. The weapon was activated by someone in your command structure. Someone who decided genocide was preferable to negotiation. That person is still out there, still capable of similar actions. We won today's battle. But the war for your species' soul, that's just beginning. As tentative celebrations began, Arcturans sharing luminescent fruit with human marines, children from both species staring at each other in wonder, Elias felt that truth settle heavy on his shoulders. Someone had tried to trigger the weapon. Someone would try again, but they had something the saboteur didn't expect. Unity, purpose, and knowledge that another way was possible. Standing in that plaza, surrounded by people he'd been sent to eliminate, Elias felt genuinely hopeful because he finally knew who he was. Someone brave enough to exist between worlds, to build bridges where walls had always stood. 3 days later, the plaza transformed to a formal ceremony. Arcturon tradition required recognition of moments when quantum paths crystallized into reality. Elias stood at the center, wearing human attire blended with Arcturon ceremonial markings. Silver patterns painted temporarily on his skin in swirling designs that matched Liuz's tattoos. You carry discomfort like armor, Meridia observed as she approached. Transformation requires acknowledging both what we were and what we choose to become. Liu stepped forward, carrying her crystallized blade across both palms. A warrior who converts an enemy to ally does something more difficult than defeating them, she said formally. I give you this, a weapon carried by my line for 30 generations, offered as symbol of trust. Elias took the blade with hands that trembled slightly. Say you won't make me regret it, Liu said, her eyes warm despite the formal words. Admiral Cross stepped forward next. What happened here shouldn't have worked by any assessment. The fact it did is due to choices defying programming. You chose to become something else. That choice has implications beyond this system. She paused, looking around at the mixed crowd, though the danger you become by standing together is just beginning. Vera approached, carrying something wrapped in shimmering fabric. A gift, she said softly. Access to the quantum archive, enough to communicate across any distance. To remember you have family here. She unwrapped a small crystal pulsing with inner light. You put it here. Vera touched her throat. The crystal bond with neural tissue creates permanent link to our network. It's family. Elias pressed the crystal to his throat. Intense cold, then heat, then a falling sensation as it bonded. Suddenly, he could feel thousands of Arcturon consciousnesses like distant stars. Overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying in its intimacy. Breathe. Meridia instructed through the new connection. First connection is always intense. It will stabilize gradually. The chaos resolve into manageable awareness. Individual minds becoming distinct voices in a vast choir. Thank you, he said, words coming in both English and quantum resonance that translated perfectly. As the ceremony concluded with shared songs that vibrated through both species' bones, Cross pulled him aside. Your ship leaves in 2 hours. I'm sending you to Alliance headquarters. You'll testify before Strategic Council about protocol reforms. It won't be easy. Powerful interests will see you as a traitor. She paused, looking at the crystal now glowing faintly at his throat. But there are people like me tired of building empire on the bones of species we could have learned from. You'll have allies. Why are you helping me? Elias asked. Cross smiled genuinely for the first time. 30 years ago, I was a junior officer on a crashed colony ship. We were dying, and the indigenous species chose to help us. Their elder said, mercy is not weakness. We have a choice about whether we make the universe colder or warmer. I've never forgotten that lesson. Elias felt something tight in his chest loosen. He wasn't alone. He found Meridia in her meditation chamber afterward. You're afraid, she observed immediately, not of leaving, but of what I'll find returning to my people. I've changed, but they haven't. That disconnect will be painful. She approached, placing her hand over the crystal at his throat. I felt the same 3,000 years ago when we chose to abandon warfare. That discomfort is not a sign you've made the wrong choice. It's the price of evolution. She sent warmth through their connection. Remember, you're not alone. Reach through the network when isolation becomes heavy. We'll be here as family who understands what transformation costs. Elias left aboard a shuttle, looking back at crystalline spires shrinking against the purple sky. Through the crystal, he felt them. Meridia's certainty like bedrock, Liu's determination like forged steel, Vera's optimism like sunrise. Thousands reaching out to remind him he carried their hopes with him. The danger wasn't over. Opposition would be fierce. But for the first time since augmentation, Elias Reed felt genuinely hopeful because he finally knew who he was. Someone brave enough to exist in between, to build bridges where walls had stood. 6 months later, the quantum crystal pulsed warmly as Elias stood before the Alliance Strategic Council in their vast chamber on Terra Prime. Hundreds of representatives watched through hollow feeds from across human space. In conclusion, Elias said steadily, the Arctron Alliance has produced measurable advantages. Hyperspace navigation improvements reduced travel time 68% across tested routes. Medical technology decreased mortality rates 43% in joint facilities. Joint development generated 12 billion credits. Triple projected extraction returns without Arctron cooperation. He paused, letting the numbers sink in. Beyond economics, we've demonstrated cooperation can be more profitable than conquest. The Arctron precedent offers a blueprint for transforming first contact protocols. We can be builders instead of destroyers. Silence followed, thick as vacuum. Council member Harrison leaned forward with barely concealed contempt. Explain why we should risk established revenue streams on one experiment with an advanced species. What about species whose only value is resources? Was your alliance just fortunate circumstance? You're asking whether mercy should be conditional on return on investment? Elias replied evenly. My answer, I don't know. I'm a former operative transformed by unpredictable circumstances. But Arcturans didn't know we'd value their technology when they healed me rather than executed me. They made choices based on principles, not calculations. Those choices saved them and gave humanity advantages we didn't know existed. He met Harrison's gaze directly. Maybe the question isn't whether every species can immediately profit us. Maybe it's whether we're brave enough to invest in possibility before knowing returns. The biggest opportunities often hide in places we dismiss as unprofitable. Admiral Jang spoke next. Even accepting your premise, implementation is problematic. We have 347 potential first contacts in the next decade. We can't negotiate individual agreements. We need standardized protocols. How do we scale spontaneous transformation? Start small, Elias suggested. Pilot programs carefully monitored across 10 systems. Train liaison officers as cultural bridges. Establish protocols prioritizing communication before extraction. Will it be slower? Yes. Will it fail sometimes? Absolutely. But potential returns justify investment. The alternative is continuing a pattern making enemies faster than we can subjugate them. Enemies who learn from our methods and return stronger. Hours of debate followed. Economic projections, risk assessments, ethical arguments disguised as practical concerns. When the vote came, 62% favored protocol reforms. Not a landslide, but enough to begin. Elias left exhausted but optimistic. The crystal pulsed, Meridia celebrating through their network, Liu sending proud approval, Vera's joy like fireworks. Cross intercepted him in the corridor. Well done, though Harrison's faction will sabotage pilot programs every chance they get. I know transformation is an ongoing choice, constantly renewed. Winning today means we have the opportunity to try. So what's next? Cross asked. Elias touched the crystal, feeling the consciousness network. Lyra's training warriors in new defensive techniques that incorporated human tactics. Vera teaching young liaison officers. Meridia walking probability paths and seeing futures branching like crystal fractals. Other signals, too, faint but present from distant stars. Other species watching, wondering if humanity's transformation was real. I need to go back to Velshura, he said, to people who showed me change was possible. The reforms will only work if we have people understanding transformation from inside who can teach others. I can do more good there than arguing with council members about profits. Cross nodded. Probably wise. While you build foundations, I'll fight political battles here. Good luck, Reed. You've started something that might outlive us both. The journey back took 3 days with the new navigation protocols. When Elias emerged from the shuttle, Liu's waited with that half-smile that had become familiar. Politicians decided not to execute you. I suppose that's progress. They authorized reforms, protocol changes, training programs, pilot projects. It's a start. Good, because while you were gone, we've been contacted by 3 other species want to know if the offer extends to them. She gestured toward expanding structures where human and Arctron engineers work side by side. You wanted to build bridges. Congratulations. You're about to get very busy. He looked at the settlement, now a mix of blue skins and human diversity. Children playing where he'd knelt in chains months ago. Human Marines drilling alongside Arctron warriors using combined techniques. This was transformation at scale. Messy, complicated, but alive with possibility conquest never could be. Meridia appeared beside them, cosmic eyes reflecting the setting suns. Welcome home, bridge builder. We have much work. Quantum paths show futures where what we begun spreads across a galaxy like ripples in a pond. But I also see paths where it fails, where fear wins and old patterns reassert themselves. She placed her hand over his crystal. Which future we inhabit depends on choices we make every moment. No single decision determines destiny. Only the accumulated weight of countless small acts. No pressure then. None at all. Just the fate of civilizations. Her smile was warm. But you've done the hardest part. You chose to transform when transformation seemed impossible. Everything after is just persistence. As the suns dipped below the horizon and spires glowed with inner light, Elias felt the network pulse with activity. Warriors training, elders teaching, humans and Arcturans working on problems neither could solve alone. Those other signals grew stronger. More species reaching out, more civilizations reconsidering ancient assumptions. The hunter had become the bridge. The weapon had become the teacher. And across the galaxy, beings watched and wondered if transformation was possible there, might it be possible here? Answers would take generations. But standing in the plaza where his life transformed, surrounded by family found among former enemies, Elias Reed felt genuine hope. Not blind optimism, but earned hope of someone who walked through darkness into light, who'd been a weapon and chose to become better. In a universe vast and cold, they discovered a third option, becoming partners, learning from rather than destroying each other, building bridges across cosmic distances. It was fragile, improbable, but real, worth fighting for, not with weapons, but with patience, courage, and the daily choice to see possibility where others saw a threat. Standing beneath alien stars on a world he'd been sent to destroy but claimed as home, Elias Reed prepared to spend his life teaching former weapons to become bridges, proving transformation was always possible for those brave enough to choose it. They had started a revolution. Now came the harder work of sustaining it. But they weren't alone, and that made all the difference.